just lost one of the best character actors of the last 50 years, Graham Greene. But in 1992, we had Thunderheart.
There's been a homicide on Indian land.
He says he knew you were coming here. He was told.
Who told him?
Spirits.
Listen to the wind. It'll tell you things, caller. He said you're chasing the wrong man.
Thunderheart.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Random Rewatch. This is Mike, and we are doing 1992's Thunderheart, starring Val Kilmer, Graham Greene, and Sam Shepherd. So this film is based on actual events that happened in the 1970s in mainly South Dakota. It's kind of a fictionalized version of them, but with a lot of analogs from real life organizations, real life people, and in one case, an actor who was actually involved in the events. What I'm referring to is something called the American Indian Movement, which was formed in Minneapolis in 1968 and really was there to protest against the treatment of Native Americans and the Americanization of a lot of Native Americans. There were Native Americans who wanted to kind of assimilate into American society, and there were those like the people in AIM who wanted to maintain and hold on to traditions and things like that. And there was also often a conflict, but there was also a lot of corruption among tribal leaders who wanted to gain personal money and wealth and power by exploiting Native Americans. And AIM kind of stood up against a lot of that, which led to the Wounded Knee incident in 1973. This is where several hundred Oglala Lakota people, as well as followers of AIM, seized the town of Wounded Knee, South Dakota for 71 days in order to protest corruption and the treatment of Native Americans. It's a very important time in American history, and it's kind of worth looking into. This movie is based loosely on those events, and there's a lot of analogs for the characters in this movie versus real life people who participated in the events. It's kind of unclear what the timeline of this movie is. The events that the movie depicts took place in 1973, based on mainly the cars that are in the movie. The FBI cars are both 1981 models, so I'm guessing this movie is supposed to have taken place in the early 1980s. But it's really kind of a timeless story, and the exact date that this is supposedly happening doesn't really matter all that much. So this film is directed by Michael Apted. This is his 13th feature film. Probably the best known ones at this point are Coal Miner's Daughter, 1980, Gorillas in the Mist, 1988. He'd go on to do a dozen other films after this, including The World Is Not Enough in 1999 and Voyage of the Dawn Treader in 2010, which I remember seeing in a press screening in New York before that film came out. Back in the days when I was a movie blogger. Apted was, at the same time he was working on this film, he was working on a documentary called The Incident at Oglala, which parallels this film. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. This is the second film in a row that we're doing that was written by John Fusco. He had done the screenplay for Young Guns, and he worked on the screenplay for this film as well. The film was produced by REDProductions, which was Robert De Niro's production company. Also with TriStar Pictures, which I think at the time was part of Columbia Pictures. And just one note, I just kind of realized in doing, research for this that most of the leading actors in this movie have passed away, which is kind of sad in a way. Val Kilmer, who we talked about a couple of weeks ago when he passed away, we did Top Gun. Graham Greene, Sam Shepherd, Fred Ward, Fred Thompson, Ted Thinelk, John Trudell, all of them we've lost all of them, as well as Michael Apted. This is kind of a testament to all of their work. So Let's get right into it. We open up with looking at a Native American ceremony that is being shot. It looks like it's at night. This is probably day for night. It seems like there's a lot of day for night in this film, which is when they shoot stuff during the day, but they put a filter on the lens so that it looks like it's being shot at night. But you can tell because, one, it's very visible and there's crisp outlines and shadows, which are supposed to be from moonlight, but are really from the sun. And then there's a beautiful shot overlooking a valley. This film was shot by Roger Deakins, who is one of the great cinematographers. Some of his best known films are Fargo, Shawshank Redemption, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Skyfall, Sicario, 1917, Blade Runner 2049. The last two he won Academy Awards for. This is just a beautifully shot film. So once the credits are over, we cut to an urban setting, Washington, D.C. We see Val Kilmer driving around. We obviously spoke about him not that long ago. He passed away. We did Top Gun. Just a great actor who's done many, many great performances. He does have Native American roots on his father's side. He is part Cherokee, and we will find out that his character, Ray Lavoie, also is supposedly of Native American stock on his father's side. In his case, Sioux. He goes into a meeting with Fred Dalton Thompson, playing William Dawes, one of the FBI directors, I guess. Thompson, I mean, everybody knows this guy. He's been in so much stuff. This guy has had such an interesting life. Started off as a lawyer in the 1960s, worked on political campaigns. He was then part of the Watergate investigation as a lawyer. He was counsel for the Senate Watergate Committee. He then went into private practice where he did corporate law and personal injury claims. He was involved in a case in the 1970s where a woman named Maria Riganti, who was head of the Tennessee Board of Pardons and Paroles, kind of became a whistleblower on corruption. And when a film was made about her story in the 1980s and 1985, Fred Thompson was asked to play himself, basically. And so that was his first acting role. And then he was cast as the CIA director in the film No Way Out in 1987. Fantastic film. We are definitely going to be visiting that film sooner rather than later. And then he just started getting pulled into other films. He was in Die Hard 2. He was in The Hunt for Red October. He was on TV. Obviously, he had a long stint on Law and Order. He was then elected in a special election in Tennessee to fill Al Gore's seat for the remainder of his Senate term. And then he was elected to his own Senate term. So he served as a United States Senator. He ran for president. I mean, this guy just really lived a full life and passed away about 10 years ago. So anyway, Dawes tells Lavoie that he is sending him out to South Dakota to deal with this situation that's going on out there, sensitive operations unit, and investigate a murder or a series of murders. And he's going out to meet somebody named Frank Kutel, who goes by the nickname Cooch, who is a senior FBI agent. We meet him at the airport, and he is played by Sam Shepherd, actor, playwright, director. We talked about him extensively in our episode on The Right Stuff. You want to check that out. But he's being sent out extensively because he has Native American roots, and the FBI can tell the people on the reservation that they are sending out an Indian FBI agent. And even though he tries to hide it, Dawes knows better.
Family tree here. It's quite a mixture. Lithuanian, Scotch-Irish, French, and American Indian. Sioux Indian, is it?
I don't know.
Sioux. Your real father was half, isn't that right?
I didn't know my father, sir. He died when I was a baby.
He died when you were 7.
So he gets out to South Dakota. He meets Cooch. Frank is out basically giving him the rundown. So there's this group called ARM, the Aboriginal Rights Movement, which is an analogous to AIM, the American Indian Movement, and they are causing all kinds of a ruckus out there at the reservation in South Dakota. There's been several murders, but Frank doesn't seem that they're going to be able to get anywhere with it.
Look, Lavoy, turn your head to the right for a second. You know, in the right light, with your head turned like that, you kind of remind me of Sal Mineo in Arrows on the Prairie. Did you ever see that one? Other than that, your coming here is like pissing in the wind. So drop the questions, stick to the assignment, okay?
So they drive out to the reservation, they go out to the desert, and they go to where the body is. And this is, we find out, someone named Leo Fastelk. And these two have kind of a measuring contest where they try to impress one another with their ability to read the scene.
Automatic, M1, M16, 223, high velocity. Soft tip, maybe.
Very clinical. Not that fancy. It's a 30-30 lever action, no frills. 5 times, maybe 5 feet away.
They find the arm symbol, which is a feather with a circle around it. You know, Frank is ready to just kind of write the whole thing off, like he knows what's going to happen. And they hear a motorcycle coming. A Native American comes in on a motorcycle, goes over to the body, starts doing some type of a ceremony. And this is Graham Greene. Graham Greene at this point is really best known for having just won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in Kevin Costner's Dances with Wolves 2 years earlier. He'd been at this point in a bunch of Native American themed movies. He would go on to have just an outstanding career, largely, obviously, playing a Native American. He's actually Canadian. He's from the Oneida people. He was born on the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario, grew up outside of Toronto, and he would just go on to have a great career. I mean, whether he was playing, you know, a Native American or someone who wasn't, like in Die Hard with a Vengeance, he just played a New York City cop. Always just bringing his game all the time. Was in a bunch of movies, was in a ton of TV shows, was recently in Longmire, he was in Goliath, he was in The Last of Us, Tulsa King, Molly's Game, he played a judge. Wind River in 2017, he played pretty much the same character he's playing in this film. He's got 5 films coming out this year, or having come out in this year, 4 last year. I think there's still a film in post-production. So, very, very prolific actor. In this film, he is playing Walter Crowhorse, who is a member of the Tribal Police Department. And he comes to tell them that he is taking Leo for the ceremony and to start his journey. And we can tell right from the beginning that he's very sarcastic.
Leo's been out here too long, man. I'm taking him to ceremonial burial.
Restricted area, Geronimo.
This is Indian land.
What's your name?
Hey, easy, Sal.
Sure as hell ain't Geronimo, Chief. I think maybe you guys got off the wrong exit, yeah? You looking for Mount Rushmore?
What's your name?
I'm a full-blooded Oglala Sioux, born and raised on this reservation.
They think of him as, you know, maybe somebody who was involved in the murder, or somebody who was trying to loot the body, until they find out that he's one of the tribal police officers. He's got no time for these guys, and he's got no respect for their authority whatsoever.
Hey, look at Crowfoot. The only journey Leo here is going to make is to the medical examiner in Rapid City. Now, in case you didn't know it, officer, violation of the
Major Crimes Act on an Indian reservation is within the jurisdiction of the Federal Bureau of Intimidation. I know that.
That's very good. Now, vamoose.
But he explains to them that there's, you know, a battle going on between the traditionalists like ARM and the Americanized Indians who are assimilating into what he calls white culture. So we meet the tribal president, Jack Milton, who travels around with a gang of thugs. He is played by Fred Ward, who we saw in our episode on The Right Stuff. Fred Ward, also part Cherokee. He's basically got a gang of what he calls rangers. It's like his own private army, and they harass people. They're essentially looking for these armed people, but they stop at nothing, and they don't care about anybody or anybody's rights in order to get what they're looking for.
I know. It's gone too far out here. We're going to catch these murders and take care of them. Indian way. Know what I mean, Cola?
Yeah, well, it's got to be taken care of the legal way, Jack. You know that. Federal jurisdiction.
Are these tribal cops?
They
Guardians
go
of
out
the
to
Oglala
a
Nation.
sweat lodge where we see they start pulling people out, and one of the people that we see is this old man, Grandpa Sam, and he is played by Ted Thin Elk. Thin Elk is Lakota Sioux. This is his first film. He'd be in 4 other ones. They also pull out Jimmy Looks Twice. Jimmy is one of the leaders of ARM. He is played by John Trudell. Trudell is Santee, Dakota. He was actually one of the leaders of the American Indian movement. He was involved in the takeover of Alcatraz in 1969. He was in the U.S. Navy. He served during the Vietnam War. So anyway, so they pull Jimmy out and they take him to his house. They want to search his house. They threaten to kick the door down. Frank calls it something like the FBI master key. But then Jimmy tells him, no, there's a coffee can under the porch. You reach under there and the key's in there. And Frank reaches under there, but there's a badger under there that bites Frank. There's a chase. Jimmy gets away. Ray chases him through like field of abandoned cars. There's like abandoned cars everywhere. And Jimmy gets away. We have a scene where we see rangers are, kind of just tossing houses and searching houses randomly. No warrants, no anything. They are looking for Jimmy. They run into a guy in a wheelchair who is Richard Yellowhawk. They go to search a school, and we see Maggie Eaglebear, who's the teacher at the school. This is Sheila Tousey. She is of Menominee and Stockbridge Munsee descent, and from Wisconsin. This is her first movie, although she would go on to do other acting roles in film and TV. She's also a director. She graduated from the Tisch School in New York. She directs plays. She's a stage actress. She's a dancer. Here she's playing, as I said, Maggie Eaglebear, who is the school teacher, but also an activist for Indian rights. Ray goes back out to the crime scene. He finds Walter, and Walter starts to tell him what he thinks happened. But more importantly, he's trying to get into Ray's head and maybe try to make him connect with his past and who he is. He's telling him that he's going kind of down the wrong path. He's too focused on like the science of it and what he's hearing from other people. And he just needs to kind of, trust his instincts. And he tells him he needs to listen to his heart and to listen to the wind.
You gotta listen to the trees, Hoss. You gotta stop and listen to the wind. It'll tell you things, Cola.
Crow Horse, I flew in here from a place called 20th Century. I don't need to listen to the trees or talk to the sand to get answers.
Ray is obviously very skeptical, and he's trusting his training and his experience and the things that he learned and his forensics. And Walter is like trying to tell him to, forget about all that stuff. Just focus on what you see and what you feel. And he starts to tell Ray what happened here and where he's looking at like footprints and signs and all these things. And Ray's like kind of mocking him a little bit, like, oh, you could tell how heavy he was by his footprint. How much money did he have in his pocket, kind of thing. Walter, at first, he just kind of lets him get away with it, but then he kind of slips that he knows what he's talking about.
You weigh 173, yeah? You're not a beer drinker. You're one of these tofu and pilaf characters. You wear your gun on your right hip, but you got a backup. A little 32, 38 maybe. And an ankle holster. Gives you a left foot drag. You're wearing brand new shoes that are a little too tight in the instep, but man, they look cool, and that's what counts.
So anyway, so Ray
Right.
goes, based largely on Walter's advice, he goes down to the river to see what he can see. And he finds Maggie there. Maggie's not really interested in talking to him at first. Ray wants to talk to her grandmother, but she won't allow it.
Well, you're from the reservation.
I'm from Minneapolis. I spent 4 years at Dartmouth before I came back to the reservation. I know my rights and I know your world. Grandma's not coming out unless you've got a warrant. And you're trespassing on my property, so hit the road, Chief.
So we cut down to a scene in a bar, like one of the local watering holes, I guess. And Frank and Ray are in there, and Ray is working on his report. And these guys are they're just making up a story and coming up with a report that's going to paint them in the best light and going to make Jimmy look bad.
As I could tell, an S.A. Lavoie apprehended looks twice at militant rally, but were attacked by
Ambushed.
Ambush, that's good. Were ambushed by 5, 6, maybe 3 unidentified Indian males. As I could tell, was stabbed in the arm during the ambush. Looks twice assaulted S.A. Lavoie, then took unlawful flight.
So Ray points out that he found some evidence. He found a casing, which is the one that Sam gave him. Frank kind of dismisses it. It seems he's not really interested in actually solving this case. He just wants to kind of clear it off his desk. So anyway, there's an attack on the bar. The bartender here is played by David Crosby, the musician from Crosby, Stills and Nash. He goes outside the bar, chases the guys who are attacking. I will not play the clip of what he says here. They find the arm symbol on the door at the hotel, the circle with the feather in it. And so it's making them look like they are a target of arm. It's the next day, Ray's driving. He gets pulled over by Walter Crowhorse for speeding, 59 and a 55. But Walter, it's really just a pretense because Walter wants to talk to him and basically wants to send him over to go see Grandpa Sam because he had seen Ray in a vision.
Because he says he knows you.
He knows me?
He says he saw you in a vision sometime back. Which has you, Kile? How? He says you're coming from a Washichu city in the east. But your people way back of the Minakojo Sioux. But you yourself don't know that. Because you're as far from yourself as a hawk from the moon. He says
So
he
they
knew you were coming
have
here. He was
a
told.
moment where they smoke a peace pipe, and this means that there'll be no lies between them. And then Sam starts to tell Ray about this vision that he had through Walter as an interpreter, and it's about a young Indian boy whose father's half Indian, and basically you get the feeling that he's talking about Ray, and Ray is obviously not particularly interested in hearing about it. He just wants to get some information on where Jimmy might be. So Ray goes back to go see Maggie. He goes back to Maggie's property where the river is, and Maggie's there, and he's trying to tell her, look, this is just my job. This is what I'm doing. And so she challenges him to actually do his job because there are other unsolved murders here that nobody's paying any attention to.
Do your job. 61 traditionals and armed supporters who were murdered and never investigated. Oh, you don't want this one. This is a suicide. Somehow he managed to shoot himself in the back of the head.
I'll look into it, Maggie, I promise.
Good. And while you're at it, why don't you find out what happens to tribal funds that don't get past Jack Milton and what he's done to our schools and health programs? Just stop pretending that you don't know what's going on.
I know what's going on, Maggie.
But you get the feeling that Ray's breaking through to Maggie, and Maggie's kind of breaking through to Ray a little bit. But it's at this point that the Rangers actually attack, and there's a shootout, and Maggie's son gets shot in the arm. He's okay. Jack blames it on arm, but Ray knows that it's not arm. He knows that it's Milton's people. So Frank tells Ray to do a stakeout on Grandpa, just to keep a watch on Grandpa. So we have these scenes where he's, following Grandpa or Sam around, and they wind up at, I guess it's a powwow, a drum circle, Walter starts to tell him what it was like growing up on the reservation.
Play cowboys and Indians. I was always Gary Cooper. I didn't want to be an Indian. Government boarding schools made sure of that. Cut off my hair, washed my mouth out with soap, and I spoke my own language. My own language, Ray. When the armed warriors came here, it was like an awakening. Got the people proud of their heritage, their elders, language. And you call them enemies.
Walter tells Ray to go to Sam, Grandpa Sam's tonight. They do. They have Sam has a vision, and it's kind of like this group vision. Ray sees his father, but more importantly, they tell Ray about Red Deer Table, which is like this Indian stronghold from the old days. The vision of his father really spooks Ray, so Ray and Walter start arguing, and Sam comes out to yell at them, and we find out that he actually spoke English the whole time.
Okay, just don't be scared. Fighting it, man. Just don't fight it. Okay? Okay, Raymond? Huh?
Get out of my face.
Knock it off! Knock it off! You remind me of a couple of old women.
He speaks English.
Yeah. Only when he's really pissed off.
So they find the car in the river. Walter finds the car in the river. They pull the car out. They find the jacket. They find a lottery ticket, a raffle ticket, and Ray's trying to get Maggie to give him information on the raffle ticket, and she doesn't want to do it. And he's like, "Look, this is how we build a case. This is the only power that we have." And again, Maggie is not having anything to do with the way that Ray sees the world.
Evidence is the only power we have to build a case.
That's not power, Ray. That's paper. Ray! Power is a rainstorm. Power's that river right there. And that's what I have to protect, not the white law.
And so Ray knows that he's got to kind of break down, he's got to break down this distrust because he feels that Maggie can be a good resource for him, I think. But also I think he's really genuinely starting to like her and trust her. And so he wants to kind of break down a wall of distrust. And so he starts to tell her about his father.
I can't understand. You're not Indian.
My father was an Indian.
You never knew him.
I knew my father. He was crazy. Built bridges and skyscrapers without a safety harness in his bare feet. I knew my father, Maggie. I was always afraid he'd fall and he'd say, "Don't worry, Washi, I can fly." That's what he called me.
He called me Washi.
And you can see that Maggie is starting to trust Ray, and he's starting to like get around to her. And there's this, funny little moment where he finds out that the nickname his father had for him, it wasn't what he thought it was.
Washi, do you know what that means?
Maybe said it meant good boy.
It's the lard we put in stew.
Great.
I think he was calling you a chubby boy.
Whoever bought this ticket killed Leo Fast Elk.
So she tells him he has to go to the source, and he doesn't know what that means. But he has a vision of Indians running and cavalry officers chasing them. And he finds himself at the Wounded Knee Memorial. He's confused and he doesn't understand. And he goes to go see Sam, and he finds that Jimmy is there in Sam's house. So he tells Jimmy, "You got to run. You got to get out of here." He's like completely bought into the idea that Jimmy did not kill Leo. And so he's like, "You got to get out of here." And Jimmy's trying to tell him, like, being on the run's not freedom. Like, he's like, there's an illusion of freedom. There's a reality of freedom. And, you have to choose what side you're on. But as they're having this conversation, the FBI task force comes in and they arrest Jimmy. One of the officers here is Rex Lynn, who is someone that we saw in Cliffhanger. So it's funny kind of seeing him in this movie as well. So Frank is like kind of convinced. He's like that the case is pretty much wrapped up. He takes the guys, they take Jimmy, they go, which leaves Ray talking to Grandpa Sam, and Sam starts to tell him about what happened at Wounded Knee.
Back that way is a place called Wounded Knee. I was 1 year old there when they came and shot our people down.
So as I said at the top, like, I'm trying to figure out the timeline of this movie. The events around which this movie are based happened in 1973. The film seems to be a little later. The cars in the film, the most modern car that I saw in the film was an 83 Chevy van, but that was kind of a background piece. The FBI cars, which you want to assume are probably like current year cars, are both 1981 models. So let's assume this thing happens in 1981. The Wounded Knee Massacre occurred in 1890, which would make Sam like 91, 92 years old at the point where Ray meets him. So he tells Ray about the Indian stronghold where they held out against the troops, and he tells him the story of Thunderheart.
One of those killed was a holy man called Wakil Chante, Thunderheart. He was killed while running for the stronghold. It is his blood, the same blood that was spilled in the grass and snow at Wounded Knee, runs through your heart like a buffalo. Thunderheart has come, sent here to a trouble.
So Ray goes back to the memorial, and I think he's trying to really find his place in all of this. He goes to see Maggie, or he doesn't go to see her. Maggie, I think she leaves the information on the raffle ticket under his door. And the person who bought the raffle ticket was Richard Yellowhawk, the guy in a wheelchair. So Ray goes to see him. And by this time, he's figured it out. So, there's a couple different ways to tell a story. One is where the audience is ahead of the characters. One is where the characters are ahead of the audience. Like the characters know things before the audience does. And there's times where the characters and the audience find out together. At this moment, Ray seems to be ahead of the audience. He seems to have figured out kind of what's going on, and now he's just looking for proof. So he goes to see Yellowhawk, and as they're having a conversation, he tells him, look, just forget it. Just get out of the chair. And tells him a couple of times, and we find out that Richard is not crippled at all, and that he was really kind of set up by someone at this point to kill Leo in exchange for, getting out of prison. He was in prison, and they came to him and they said, look, you do this thing, we'll get you out. And he basically confesses the whole thing, a convenient movie confession.
I did what you Washichus told me to do.
You blew it, Richard.
Yeah, I blew his back out with your hardware. I'm not going back, man.
All right. Look. The men that approached you at Leavenworth, what are their names? Maybe I can do a deal. I don't know.
Suits. 3 suits. That's all I know him as. Talk to Frank, man. He's the one that set it up.
Right, Frank Hotel was there.
Yeah.
So now we know that Frank is involved, and there are other government officials involved. So he gets with Walter, and they drive out to this Red Deer table where Sam had told him to go, and they find a couple of things. They find that there are test wells dug for uranium mining, and this is something that has been going on for a while. The tribe has been voting against it. This is what's poisoning the water, and this is Jack Milton and the government working together to kind of get this thing done.
Look at that. It's sealant. Our people have been voting against this mining thing for years.
National security.
Does Milton own this land?
He'd like to. He just gets kickbacks off the damn leases.
They see a coyote. They go over and they find Maggie's body, which obviously is going to upset Ray. This seems really obvious to me. Like, if you don't want to draw attention to what's going on out here, why are you dumping a body out here? You have 1 million acres of land to dump a body. This seems like, oh, we're going to dump her right here. It's clearly connected. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of, I guess, storytelling convenience. It really annoys me when this kind of stuff happens. They find Richard. Richard's dead. There's a shootout. There's a chase. Ray's driving across the desert and everybody's chasing him. Jack Milton, the Rangers, the FBI, Frank Cottrell. He's on the radio with Frank. He's got a tape of Richard Yellowhawk's confession that he's playing over the radio. They get out to the stronghold and it's kind of this standoff. And Ray decides to face Frank, and Frank is still trying to do damage control, but Ray is just, he's the typical hero in the story, and he's not really gonna take it.
What do you want? What do you want? You want an advisory position, grade 10? Huh? I can arrange that in Denver.
Sensitive Operations Unit.
What do you want?
People know. You can't kill all of us. People know.
I can either help you, or I can send you back to your ancestors. Now, which way is it?
He drops his gun, he starts to walk away, and it looks like they're all just going to kill him and Crowhorse, when all of a sudden, around the top of the mountain, there's, 100 Native Americans up there with rifles all pointing down at the FBI. This is kind of, the standoff is kind of over because they know that they're outnumbered. Then it just kind of cuts to the code of the movie, and there's really no explanation of, like, where does it go from there? Like, okay, fine, you have all these Rangers and FBI guys, you have all these people up on top of the mountain, and now we're just going to cut back. It doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense. Like, there's no de-escalation, there's no the FBI guys dropping their gun, or they're putting their guns away and just walking away. I mean, there's no visual of how this went from amped up completely to now we're back, we're getting ready to leave. And I just think that was kind of a missed opportunity in storytelling. But anyway, we get a scene at the end, this coda at the end of Ray and Walter at Maggie's grave. And we find out that Ray is going to take the information that he has and he's going to go to the media and he's going to blow this thing up. And then we have the parting of ways between Walter and Ray.
If you ever need a place to come back to, listen to the wind, we'll be here.
Listen,
there ain't no word in Sioux for goodbye. Look after yourself, Ray.
And Walter tells Ray this thing about there's no word in Sioux for goodbye. That actually is true. The Sioux apparently do not have a concept of goodbye. Their way of taking leave of somebody, I guess, is to say, I'll see you again. Their belief is that once people are connected, they are always connected. And so there's no such concept of a permanent, I will never see you again. They always believe that once you're connected to somebody, that you will be reunited with them, whether in this life or another life. And that's kind of a cool thought, I think. Ray runs into Sam and gives him his watch. Sam had tried to barter the watch from him earlier, and Ray had refused, but Ray finally gives Sam the watch, and they make the sign for, it's finished. And then Ray runs off, and there we have it. That's the end of Thunderheart. So this film was released April 3rd, 1992. It was only released to theaters in the United States. It had a $4.5 million opening weekend. It wound up making $22.6 million. That's on a budget of $15 million. Not a huge moneymaker. It was a lot bigger in like cable, HBO, that type of thing, home video, DVD. It kind of made its bones there, not in its original theatrical release. It's listed in Rotten Tomatoes as having a 2025 release in New Zealand, where it made $89. From what I can find out, it was like some kind of film festival or some kind of event, and they showed the movie. I don't know where the $89 came from, but that's what's listed. That put it right over the top. It's got a 91 on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think that's deserved. This is a good movie. Roger Ebert, 3.5 stars. Roger was really impressed with the way that Apted kind of focused on the people, but he also highlighted the reservation. He said it feels like you're really there at the reservation, and everything feels real. And I have to agree, this movie really does feel real, and it does feel like, even though there's a lot of like actors in this film who are not like seasoned professional actors, especially among the Native Americans, I think the performances from like Kilmer and Shepherd and Graham Greene especially are fantastic, especially Graham Greene. But when they're on screen with, Ted Thin Elk or Sheila Tousey, it's good. It's fine. It's just like you can see kind of the levels of difference in the quality of the actors. And these people they're not primarily film actors. So, that's not to bring down on them. It's just they're bringing them in for authenticity, and that part of it works. Like, you really feel like they understand what's going on. I really highly recommend this movie. I really like this movie. You may want to take a look at, there's a couple of other films that are kind of in a similar vein. Well, one that's, directly related, which is the 1992 documentary Incident at Oglala, which is kind of the documentary version of this film, in terms of what happened in 1973 and the whole Indian rights movement type thing. And that's directed by Michael Apted as well. He's well known for his documentaries, and he was kind of working on these projects simultaneously. There's also Conspiracy of Silence, which is a movie about unsolved murders on Indian reservations, some specific one as well. And then there's 2017's Wind River with Elizabeth Olsen and Jeremy Renner, and also starring Graham Greene in a role very similar to Walter Crowhorse. That's also a really good movie, and that specifically talks about unsolved murders of Indian women on a reservation. So a couple of good other films, if you're kind of interested in that type of subject matter, or this film really spoke to you, those other films may speak to you as well. So that's it for Thunderheart. Thank you for taking a listen. Be sure to listen to our main show. Be sure to check out our merchandise store. There's a link in the description. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you listening. And thank you. Catch you next time.